Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. Now I know that I've disappeared for like an entire year. I haven't really, done anything. I've just applied to medicine and struggled. It's, it... Now the purpose of this video is to tell you guys what I wish I knew before I applied to medicine and anything that you guys may need to know when you apply. So the first thing you need to know about medicine is that it is hugely competitive. It doesn't take Boris Johnson to figure that out. Now, if you guys want an idea of how competitive it is, on average, nationally, there are 3.5 applicants for each place in medical school. Now, something else that's worth knowing is that annually, around 40% of medicine applicants actually get into medical school. This year, that number has halved to 20%. So only 20% of people are doing the entrance exams, getting their interviews, got their offers, and are planning to go to medical school. Now, I've also been asked about how long it takes for medical schools to get back with an offer. So I do have a list of the most popular universities which reply back with offers. So first one is Oxford, who get back to you in early January. So they are the earliest of people to get back to you. Now that's followed by Cambridge, who get back to you around mid-January. So it's normally about a week after Oxford. Now St. George's is a bit of a mad one. They give offers from December all the way to April, which is that's crazy. I don't know if I could live with that. UCL get back to you within 2 weeks of your interview day. And like I said, most universities will get back to you between February and March time at the latest. Some people may hear back until April, but that's probably kinks because the admin's a bit... I don't want to say anything offensive, but, fill in the gaps. Now, inshallah, everyone gets into medical school, but for the unfortunate case that you don't, there are some different options as to how you can still get in. So the first option is clearing, where you can apply to different universities whose medicine courses haven't been filled up. And that's quite useful, to be honest. Just to throw in some stats, 13.5% of all accepted students in 2019 got in through clearing. So although the chances of getting through clearing are slim, it shouldn't be ruled out. Now you may be wondering, how can I get into clearing? Now there are 3 different ways of doing this. So the first method is if you don't get the grades that you need on results day. The second method is if you change your mind about your firm and insurance choices and now you want to apply to a different university. Now bear in mind that if you've applied to 4 different medical schools, you've got rejections from them, but you still have an offer from your 5th choice, you will have to decline that before you're eligible for clearing. And even if you don't get the grades you need, it's still worth calling up your university and asking them if they have any spaces. If you're early enough, you can bag a few places, and I've heard of people who have done this. Again, don't bet on this, but it's possible. Now the truth is, clearing actually begins in July each year, but it's only on results day when it really starts to get a bit heated. And something else that's worth knowing about clearing is that last year the deadline was 20th of October. So this year you can expect it to be around the same time, if not earlier. Now the second way of getting into medical school is through transfer programs. Now this is something that I'm not too keen about because it can be quite risky and competitive, and if you're not successful in the transfer program, you can find yourself studying more years on a course that you don't want to study. So it can be quite risky in that sense. Now for these types of courses, you must study 2 years of that specific course before you are eligible to transfer for medicine. So let me give you guys a list of courses and universities which offer transfer into medicine. So examples of this are biomedical sciences at Newcastle, St. George's or Sussex. You can also do molecular medicine at Sussex, clinical sciences at Bradford, medical pharmacology at Cardiff, and biochemistry, genetics, microbiology, and physiology at Leicester. Those all offer transfer to medicine, provided that you have the right grades and, everything else. And the final way of getting into medicine is through postgraduate med. Now this is something that I completely hate. I don't recommend this at all. Again, you know what's best for yourself, but personally, I'm not a big fan of it. So how this works is that, let's say you're studying an undergraduate course at university right now. So whether it's law, microbiology, physics, surfing. Now, once you've graduated from whatever course you're studying, you are eligible to apply for postgraduate medicine. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages to this, so let's just focus on those first. So first advantage is that if you apply to postgraduate medicine, you are eligible for student loans, as long as you're a national student, international student, as long as your paperwork's fine. Another advantage is that postgraduate courses are generally shorter than undergraduate. So for example, the most common postgrad courses for medicine are 4 years long, whereas for undergraduate it's 5 or sometimes even 6 if you intercalate, 7 if you do EMTP and you intercalate. Now let's talk about the disadvantages about postgraduate medicine. The first one is that it takes longer because you're studying an undergraduate course and now you're doing another course. Second disadvantage is that it's more expensive because you've just studied an undergraduate course and now you're applying for another one. Please bear in mind that postgraduate medicine does have a higher applicant to place ratio. So if you do consider postgraduate medicine, that's something worth knowing. Now, if you're someone studying an undergraduate course and you're wondering, well, if postgraduate medicine is so competitive, why not just apply for undergraduate medicine? And the thing is, you're actually allowed to do this. You are allowed to apply for undergraduate course. But a major disadvantage of doing this is that you won't be eligible for student loans. So if you do apply for undergraduate med, you must have Series B. Now, for those of you guys wondering how much more competitive postgrad med is than undergrad med, like I said, for undergrad medicine, there are 3.5 applicants per medical place, whereas for postgrad, there are 10 applicants for each medical place. That's just under 3 times as competitive. Now, the final thing worth knowing is that if you do take out a tuition fee loan, most medical schools in England and Wales charge £9,250 per year. And for medical schools in Northern Ireland and Scotland, the prices do vary depending on where you're from. So let's talk about maintenance loan for living costs. So every full-time UK student is eligible for a maintenance loan to cover their costs. So for the 20 to 2021 academic year, if you're living at home, you're eligible to collect up to £7,747 regardless of where in the UK you live. Now, if you're living away from home outside of London, you're eligible for up to £9,203. If you're living away from home in London, you're eligible for up to £12,010. That's just under £3,000 if you're living outside of London. Because London is expensive. Believe me, I live there. And finally, if you're spending a year of a UK course studying abroad, then you're eligible to collect up to £10,539. Now let's talk about the overall costs of medical school. Now if you're studying the 5-year undergraduate course, that's going to be 5 times 9,250, which is £46,250. Just kidding, I got it from the laptop screen. Now let's say you've already studied the 3-year course before you apply to medicine. That's already £27,750 that you have to pay back. Or if you do a degree before, which is 4 years long, that's an additional £37,000. Bro, I'm already broke, I can't afford this. Now, another thing to consider is that how much you repay over student loans doesn't depend on how much you borrow. It depends on how much you earn. The current rule is that you have to pay 9% over the repayment threshold. So in that case, this is £26,570 in the UK. Now that we've got the process and the finances out of the way, let's talk more about the entrance exams. Now there are 2 entrance exams which you can do if you are a UK national. So the first example is the UCAT, which is the University Clinical Aptitudes Test. Now this is a 2-hour exam which you sit on a computer. Sounds depressing, I know. Now one question I've been asked is how long should I take preparing for the UCAT? Now for me, I would say the best time is 1 month to 2 months, no longer than 2 months. Now when I applied, I had 2 ways of taking the UCAT. I could either do it at home on my laptop or I could do it at a test centre. Now I chose to do the UCAT on my laptop. Now long story short, my UCAT exam crashed. It was all over. So I called up UCAT and I told them that I wanted to resit and they let me do it at a test centre. So even when I did the exam, it was during the summer holidays and that was the perfect time to do the exam. Now if you're planning to book the UCAT, the perfect time to start is before school starts. Anytime before school starts. Now the reason as to why I'm saying this is because in year 13 you will have so much to do, whether it's Bmat preparation, personal statement, A-level homework, or even just classwork in general. So the best time to do it is just in the summer. I know you're gonna hate it, you're gonna hate yourself, but it's better to sacrifice this summer so that you have the next 5 years just to apply to medicine. No, I don't want to play FIFA. So universities would generally check your UCAT score, rank everyone from best to worst, and then they will offer around 60 to 70% of the top applicants for interview. Now bear in mind that most universities will reject you if you get a band 4, apart from the universities which don't look at your situational judgment. So for example, I am aware that when I applied this year, St. George's weren't looking at people's bands. So you could get a score of like 700 with a band 4 and you would still get an interview, even though band 4 is the lowest band you can get. Something else that's worth knowing is that you can still be disadvantaged with the band 3, but band 1 and 2 are the best ones to get. Some universities check your band as a separate station during the interview, so make sure that you can aim for band 1. Now at interview, you're going to be scored at each MMI station or the overall panel interview if that's what you're doing. And from that, the scores are going to be ranked from best to worst, and the top 40% to 70% of interviewees will be given an offer. And if you're unsuccessful with your interview, you may be put on a waiting list, or you'll be given an opportunity to study a different course at the university. I don't recommend the second option, but it's worth considering if it's a transfer program to medicine. And after you receive your offers, you generally have until May or June to choose your firm and insurance offers. So let's quickly break down the UCAT, the different sections involved, and the timings. So the first section is verbal reasoning, which has 44 questions and you have 22 minutes to answer them. So that gives you around 30 seconds per question. And the scoring is from 300 to 900. For decision making, you have 29 questions and 32 minutes to answer them. So you get just over 1 minute per question, and the scoring is also the same as verbal reasoning, 300 to 900. Now the next subsection is quantitative reasoning. Now this is the mathsy part of the UCAT, and it gives you 36 questions and you have 25 minutes to complete them. So just under a minute per question. Again, the scoring is the same as the previous two. Now the next one is abstract reasoning, which is when you identify shapes, patterns, stuff like that. You will have 55 questions and 14 minutes to answer them. So when it comes to abstract reasoning, it is the most time pressured section, but it's also easy to pick up as well. Again, the scoring is the same, 300 to 900. And the final subtest is known as situational judgment. Now this basically assesses your ability to interact in real life situations and understand how a doctor would approach a situation as well. It basically tests your ability to behave as a doctor. So you have 69 questions, 27 minutes, and you will be scored from band 1 to 4. Band 1 is the highest you can get and band 4 is the lowest you can get, with band 4 getting you pretty much a guaranteed rejection unless you apply strategically. That is key. So situational judgment is probably the least time pressured. I've never met anyone who's ever run out of time in situational judgment, even if they've taken like 1 minute to read each question. It's really not that hard. So the first thing to consider is that make sure the university that you apply to suits your learning style. Now each university offers a different way of teaching, and these are the three most common ones. The first one is an integrated course structure. Now this is basically when you have patient contact from day one, you meet different patients. Now this will suit you if you're a sociable person and you want to make links between learning and patients. The next one is traditional course structure. Now this is basically when you spend 2 or 3 years learning content in universities, so you just have full-on lectures, and for the final 3 years you're exposed to patients, you have contact with them, and you start doing work experience. Now typically it's universities such as Oxford and Cambridge which offer this, so it's not really that common. The final one is PBL. Now this is known as problem-based learning, and it's basically when you do your own research and then you meet up in a group, you report your findings and you just discuss different cases. Now a major tip is please don't apply to 4 medical schools which are too difficult. You stand a better chance with 2 aspirational university choices and 2 which are sort of your backup medicine choices. Now you can have 3 difficult medical schools and 1 easy medical school if you want, but that depends on what you know about yourself. So moving on, here are some documents that you need to be familiar with when you're applying to medical school. So the first one is MDT. Now this is known as the multidisciplinary team, and it's basically a team which consists of healthcare professionals of different specialties. So for example, you can have a GP, a consultant, a nurse, a phlebotomist. Another thing that you must know about is the GMC, which is basically an organization. They've made a document called the Good Medical Practice, and it's really useful for practicing your situational judgment, especially because it goes over everything that a doctor needs to have, all the qualities a doctor needs to have, and everything you need to know about medicine, because it's hard. It's hard. Now the next one is the BMA, which is the British Medical Association. Now their website is extremely useful because you can read up on their articles and also mention it in your personal statement. So it does look quite good. Now there are 4 pillars of medical ethics that you need to be familiar with as well. The first one is justice, which is basically when you treat patients fairly. The next one is non-maleficence, which is basically when you do no harm, so you basically don't hurt your patient. The third one is beneficence, which is when you do good for your patient. And the final one is autonomy. Now this is when you give the patient the right to choose whatever treatment they want. And the final thing that you need to be aware of is the NHS Constitution and what it stands for. Now let's talk about the Bmat, which is a completely different exam. So this is a 2-hour exam and it consists of 3 sections called section 1, 2 and 3. unsurprisingly. So section 1 will test your aptitude and skills, and this section is going to be 1 hour long. Section 2 tests your scientific knowledge and applications, and this is going to be 30 minutes long. Section 3 is writing an essay, and this will be 30 minutes long. Now for the scoring system, section 1 and 2 are scored from 1 to 9, with 9 being the highest and 1 being the lowest. And section 3 is scored between 1 to 5 for quality of content and A to E for quality of English language. So guys, that is the end of today's video. I hope it was useful to you in some way. Now if you guys want to find out more about me, what I did to get a competitive UCAT score and where I applied, things like that, then feel free to let me know and I'll make more videos depending on how many likes this gets. Now if this video gets 69 likes, then I'll upload a series of videos explaining how I took the UCAT and got a competitive score, as well as where I applied, because not everyone knows. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to message me. I'm always happy to help. And that's it. Take care, guys.